Hi, good morning. It's Monday, the 6th of September currently, and it's 6:40 in the morning. I had planned to go to spend this weekend, both Saturday and Sunday at the cafe, but things happened and I was kind of like at a mental breakdown. I did not feel very well this weekend at all, but I decided that because the coffee shop opens at 7, I have like two favorite coffee shops in my city. One opens at 7, the other opens at 8. The one that opens at 8 is closest to my work, but I start work 10 to 8, so that would not work. So I'm gonna go to the other coffee shop and I'm gonna spend like 40 minutes there drinking coffee and reading in Nils. And I was at the library last Friday to pick up the book, and that's kind of like when I had a panic attack, which was not fun. It's never fun to have those in a public space, but I remained safe until I was home, so that was nice. But because of that, I don't have the physical copy of Nils, but I did notice that my library offers it as an audiobook. So I will listen to it as an audiobook and drink a cup of coffee. So let's go to the coffee shop. Hi, just a quick update. I finished Nils. I gave it 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. It was a lot more enjoyable than I expected it to be. I really enjoyed the way that it involved Swedish folklore, Pyssling and Tomte in the beginning, and like that's how he travels through Sweden, Nils. He becomes a Pyssling. There is not a good word in English for that. It's kind of like being turned into a very, very tiny human being by magic. Or you're born like that, depends. But he is one of those, and he travels through Sweden. And I think if anyone is interested in learning about Swedish geography and a little bit about Swedish folklore, you should pick it up. It's a very quick read. It's very simple and very fun, and it has to do with that period in Swedish history as well. And I was very happy that they went to my city, or not my city, but my region, which I didn't think they would, but they did, and I love that. And then I started Before You Say I Do, but I only read one chapter, and then I have to go to work. So I'm on my way to work right now, and I will talk to you tomorrow when I go back to the coffee shop. So far, I enjoy this a lot more than I thought I would. Like, it's not as difficult, which I like. But yeah, I will talk to you tomorrow.
Hi, so I am back home. I went to a different cafe this day, which you probably noticed. I usually go in the morning, eat breakfast, have my first cup of coffee for the day and stuff like that at the cafe, but I spent 2 hours talking to my grandma on the phone, so time kind of ran away from me. So I decided I'm gonna go for lunch instead, and when I got to my usual cafe, it was full. Not just full by Swedish standards, but full. Like, there were people everywhere. And so I decided I'm gonna go to another cafe. So I went to Charm instead. And it was kind of like, it was really cozy. I have never been in that cafe before. So I had like a cup of coffee and some lemonade, like raspberry lemonade. It was really nice. I really enjoyed that whole atmosphere, so I'm definitely gonna go back there. Update with the book. I really enjoyed the book so far. There is cheating in it. It's very similar to Imagine Me and You in that way. Like, they kiss, but they also have sex while one of them is engaged to be married and the other one is a bridesmaid. I don't have anything against the cheating in this. I would never condone it in real life, but in a book, it's fine. It's like, there are a lot of things that I don't condone in real life that I don't have a problem with if I read it. Like, there are certain things that I would be like, no, absolutely not, like, that's horrible, don't do that. I'm okay with murder in books when it's like a murder mystery, but I don't condone murder. But in the book, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed these two characters together. I don't think I'm gonna give this 5 stars, but it's kind of like a high 3, low 4. It's like 3.5 stars, I feel like, or like 3.75. I don't give half stars. I don't even know why I'm kind of thinking about that, but I'm thinking I probably will give it 4 stars. I have 10 minutes left of it, so you can ask yourself, why did you go home from the cafe if you only had 10 minutes left of the audiobook? My phone died. I forgot to bring a charger. Yeah, so I have 10 minutes left before you say I do. So tomorrow before work, I'm gonna go to a cafe and listen to Before You Say I Do for 10 minutes. And then I also bought a few books. I bought 8 books. I decided like I have to go to the little bookstore that is kind of like an all-in-one bookstore. Like, when I say all-in-one, like, it has everything. If you want to get a board game, you go to that bookstore. If you want to get things for like taking notes, things for going back to school supplies, you go to that bookstore. So it's a bookstore that isn't just a bookstore. It has everything, or a lot of things. So I went there because I was gonna get things because I have started a reading journal, or I am preparing a reading journal for 2022, which I am really excited about. And I've wanted to do a reading journal for a long time, but I haven't really gotten into it. And then for another video, I am using a reading journal for a certain theme, which is going to come out in like a month or 2. So that will be up relatively soon. But with doing that one, I felt really inspired to make a reading journal that is for an entire year. So I am preparing a 2022 reading journal. So I'm looking for like getting ideas and stuff. So I have a few pages planned out so that when December hits and it's time to like prepare for January, I can do that more easily. But going to a bookstore, even though I decided to get like office supplies, I ended up buying books. In this bookstore that I love is that for pocket books, like paperbacks, it's called pocket in Swedish, like pocket, you know, like that's the name. That's what we call paperbacks. So they have, if you buy 4 paperbacks, you get 1 for free. So you only pay for 3 paperbacks, but you buy 4. Like, that's what they have. And so I bought 8 books. So I paid for 6 books, but I bought 8 books and I got 2 books for free. So that's nice. And the books that I got were Scythe. I've been looking in a lot of different places for this series, and I saw that they had the first book, so I was really excited about that. So I bought the first book in this series, which I think is really, really fun. If you don't know what the series is about, it's kind of like a future where we humans have conquered death. So the only way to keep countries and places from overpopulation, they have scythes to kill people. I've heard great things about this. I'm really excited to get to this book. I am always on the lookout for like sci-fi books because science fiction is one of my favorite genres. Science fiction and romance are my favorite genres, and like dystopian science fiction is also something that I really enjoy. So I saw this and I was like, I have to have it. And as I said, my two favorite genres are science fiction and romance. The next book I got was this romance book by Jill Mansell, and this is a romance book. It is about this woman who has she lost everything, and then out of nowhere she got her dream job, and this dream job is in like this nice location. Yeah, so she relocates to live in a stunning house by the sea, and I just felt that it sounded really, really like it sounded like a warm hug in romance book. Like I love that in romance novels when you have like these picturesque settings and it's kind of like a feel-good story, and I got that vibe from this. So, and it's yellow, which I'm always looking for more yellow books, as you know. So I was like, I saw this and I was like, I'm really intrigued to read this. Then we have another science fiction, and it's Brave New World. This is a science fiction classic, and I just saw this and I was like, I have to have it. I have to have this. Like, this is one of those books, like I said this in my most recent book haul, that I bought in 1984. Like, it feels like that is a book, that is a science fiction book that you have to read to call yourself a science fiction lover. So this, I feel that same way, that this is a book that as a science fiction reader I have to have read, and I have it now, and I'm really excited to read another classic science fiction book. And then we have another book that I've heard great things about and I'm really intrigued by, and it's On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. And this is just something that I thought was really, really interesting. I don't really know that much about it, but I've heard great things about it, and it's stunning. So I was like, I'm gonna buy this book and give it a shot. It's not that long. So I was like, I'm gonna get to read this. It's beautiful, as I said, so I bought it. And then we have another romance, and it's spoiler alert. This is between, like, we have a fat protagonist, which I love. Like, we need more of that. I want there to be in the future, though, the opposite. Like, we're getting a lot of fat female main characters in male-female romance, and I would love for there to be a female character and a fat male main character, that we get that, because that is something that I feel like is needed. But this one is about, like, we have this guy who is an actor, and he is an actor in this, like, fantasy TV series, and he is really annoyed at the character he plays, and so he writes fan fiction where he kind of gets off some steam, you know, with his frustrations about his character. And then we have a girl who is a fan of the series, and she writes fan fiction too, I think, and they kind of became friends and stuff online. She doesn't know that he's the actor playing that character. So that is something that I think is going to be really interesting. It's a yellow spine, which I'm always here for. I love when there's yellow spine, so that I can actually work my way to get a yellow bookshelf, because I want that. So this is another book that I've heard great things about, so I decided to have it. Then we have another romance, and it's The Bookshop on the Shore. I don't need to know more. Like, that's all I need to know, because, like, as I said, like, atmospheric, picturesque romance setting is something that I love in romance books. So that is something that I thought was like a bookshop on the shore. Like, this is going to be a warm hug, this is going to be a cup of tea. That kind of vibe is what I'm getting, that this is going to be that kind of book that you can just sit under a blanket with a cup of hot warm like tea and read, and it will like give you those cozy vibes. So I wanted to have it and read it. And I just realized it's Sweden, yellow and blue and some white, but it's Sweden. Then I have a book that I have never heard about, but it looks amazing, and it's The Upper World by Femi Fadugba. Yeah, like look at this cover, it's gorgeous. And it's just like all it says on the back is, if you had the chance to change your future, would you take it? And I was like, I don't need to know more. I don't need to know more. It looks gorgeous and it's a science fiction. I don't want to know more. I'm gonna read this. Like it's gorgeous and it's a science fiction set in the future. I'm gonna read this. And the last book that I hauled is another cup of warm tea under a blanket in winter. Cozy vibes, a warm hug. I decided to get One More for Christmas by Sarah Morgan, because like look at this. I get like chick flick vibes. That's not what it's called. No, that's not what it's called either. There is a certain, I think it's called chick lit, like women's fiction but romance, which it's very like unnecessarily gendered. Like men enjoy romance too, like obviously. But I saw this and I was like, that looks so cozy. And this is like a romance in Christmas, and I am so excited to read this in Christmas. So those are all the 8 books that I hauled today, and I am so happy. Like I got 2 of these books for free, as I said, so that's a great deal. I got 8 books and I only paid for 6. I love that for me. That's nice. I'm gonna talk to you again tomorrow, of course, because I will have finished Before You Say I Do and have started another book, and we're gonna see what book that is. Hi, I'm back home, and I read the first They book. I loved it. It was really good, and I don't really like when they change, when in books that are, you know, like they're fiction, when they change things that is common knowledge and they change it to fit the story. I kind of feel like I liked it at the end, but like the main thing that they changed is the fact that Loki, it said that Loki is the child of Odin with a human. So Loki is part Asa, which is the branch of the gods that is like Odin, and for Loki, Freya, all of them are Asa. That's why the religion is called the Asa faith, because you believe in the Asa gods. A lot of people, unfortunately, in my opinion, associate Jotunheim with frost giants, but that's not really the thing. Like the Jotun are like giants in a way, and they live in Jotunheim. Like it's not just frost giants. Like it's like difficult to explain like this, but it makes sense that they changed that Loki is part human and Odin's child. In the graphic novel, Loki is gender non-conforming, they are gender neutral, because the whole point of the book is kind of we're following Ve, who was thrown out of Jotunheim, and she is a human who is from Jotunheim, and her gods and her people's gods are the Jotuns. A big part of this is kind of showing a different perspective, because a lot of our history in the Nordic and what a lot of people outside of Nordic think about when they hear about like Nordic gods, they think about the Asas and who they are like fighting against, who are the villains to them. And the Jotuns are one of the villains in like the old myths and stuff. So what the book They does is it gives another perspective on this story, that you follow a girl who was brought up in Jotunheim with the Jotuns as her gods. And they have like very close relationships with the Jotuns. And so because of that, because the whole book is centered around, I don't want to say conflict, because like it's a lot more than a conflict, but there's like this big fight between the Asas and the Jotuns. And so to make Loki half Jotun or half giant, which is the Jotuns, the Jotuns are giants, to make Loki half Jotun wouldn't work, because their purpose is to still be a trickster and still be like, why are you helping us and stuff like that. And so if Loki had been half Jotun, then it would be like the Asa wouldn't trust them either, because they're Jotun. So why would they even bring Loki to Jotunheim for this big battle thing if Loki was half Jotun? So they made Loki half human, and that is kind of like a big thing, because the girl Vey is like, why are you helping me? And Loki is like, I'm part human too. I don't know why they chose to make Loki Odin's child. I don't know. Like, I don't understand why they did that. I assume it's because of Marvel that people think of Loki as Odin's son, when Loki isn't related to Odin in any way, shape, or form. They don't even like, he doesn't have Asa blood in the traditional sense, because he's not Asa. I made the big mistake. The cafe opens at 9, and I was just like, I'm gonna bring both books. So I have Vey 1 and Vey 2. So I felt like I'm gonna bring both and read both, because like it won't take me that long to get through them. It took me 50 minutes to read the first book, to finish the first book. So I was like, it's not gonna take that long to read both of them. And then 1 hour after being in the cafe, when I just finished the first book, I realized I didn't bring the second book. And I was like, okay, so what am I gonna do now? I have 2 books left. I have the second Vey book and Elatsue. Those are the only books left for this whole thing. I'm gonna try as much as I can this week to spend 40 minutes every single day before work reading Elatsue. That's the plan. So that is such a bad plan, because I just finished the first Vey book. So wouldn't it make more sense to read the second Vey book? But it also feels really weird to bring a graphic novel, because that book is big and I would have to bring that book to work as well. But it's also like, I feel like next weekend, I can spend a lot more time reading on Saturday and Sunday if I have to. I am not worried that I won't be able to finish the second Vey book. I think though that I will need as much time as I can in the cafe to read Elatsue. And it feels so strange that now I'm kind of like, I can't read at home. I have to read in a coffee shop. And it's just like, you can read other books when you're at home, right? Like, you don't have to read only at the cafe, but it's kind of got to my head that I can't read this book because I'm at home. I should also say, like, I finished Before You Say I Do a few days ago. Loved it. I forgot to give you an update about my thoughts on it this way. I just showed you my Goodreads, like, when I finished it, but I really love that movie. I really love that book. It reminded me a lot of Imagine Me and You, so if you have an issue with that movie based on like cheating and that whole stuff, you would probably not like this book. you should probably not read it. If you have an issue with, dating, cheating, and stuff like that, you shouldn't read this book. But I really liked that book. It wasn't the best Claire Lydon book that I've ever read from her, but I really loved it. It's like my top 3. Made in London is still the best book of hers that I've ever read. I love that book to pieces. But yeah, so that's kind of like just a little reading update, and I will bring you with me to the coffee shop this week. Hi, so it's pumpkin season, so I decided to get myself a pumpkin chai latte, Frappuccino. So awkward. I really like it. So hi, it's just after 8 Saturday, and I came to the conclusion that it would be very difficult for me to finish Elatsue if I only read it physically. So I got it as an audiobook, so that's awesome. And that's kind of like the plan for today. I am going to go to the coffee shop and hopefully finish it today or tomorrow, and then I will just focus on the second V book. That's the plan. An update. I am 200 pages into this. So I have like 150 pages of it to read tomorrow, and that is approximately what I read today. So tomorrow I will hopefully finish Elatsue and the second V book. So I'm gonna bring V volume 2 with me tomorrow. Hi, I'm back home. It's 14:30 approximately, and I finished Elatsue earlier today. That feels great. I really enjoyed this story. Like, I enjoy the whole magical realism part of it, that it was very, atmospheric and a perfect book to read in autumn, I feel like. So I really enjoyed this. I am giving this 3 stars for one very specific reason. This is not a genre. Like, let's just start there. This isn't a genre that I think I would ever give 4 or 5 stars to. That's kind of like, that's how it is. There are a lot of books that I feel like I'm happy I read this,
but I'm never going to reread it. I don't think I would ever reread this unless it's for educational purposes. Like I have 2 copies of this book. I accidentally bought 2 copies. So I am going to bring my second copy to the school. So in the school library, there will be a copy of this book because I think it's a great book to read. I think some of my students will enjoy this. It's a great option for when we read novels in English class. And as far as I know, it's not translated to Swedish, but that's just like as far as I know. This has a mystery at the center of it that deals with like, it's a murder mystery. It's a supernatural murder mystery in a lot of ways. And I really enjoyed the mystery. I really enjoyed like all of those, like there was just a lot of things that felt really like they went under your skin, and was just this uncomfortable feeling because of stuff that was happening. But as I said, it's not a genre that I think I would ever rate high because it's not for me really. Like I really enjoyed this story. I really enjoyed the book, the magical realism aspect, the indigenous aspect of it as well, that we follow an indigenous girl, a Lipan Apache girl, and her perspective, and the whole book is centered around her. And I think she as a character was absolutely fantastic, but the book is not for me. I really enjoyed it, but I'm giving it 3 stars because it's really enjoyable. Really loved the writing of it. The story was great. The mystery was great, but I am never going to reread this unless it's for school. And because of that, I feel like when I give out 4 and 5 stars, which I don't do easily, it's books that I feel like, yeah, I can see myself rereading this in the future. Or like, yeah, this is a book that I am going to want to dive back into. But this, I am happy that I read this, but it's the type of book that I feel like I have read it, so I'm not going to read it again. And so because of that, I'm giving it 3 stars. But I still highly recommend it to everyone who is interested in magical realism, who enjoys that genre, who enjoys a good murder mystery and supernatural paranormal stuff happening. That's a lot so I also read the second Vej book. So Vej bok 2, and I finished this. I am giving this book 5 stars, and that is for like a lot of reasons. Like first of all, I do really enjoy the things that they did with the story, and there are a lot of things that changed from the folklore in here, and you know, like the religious stuff with the Asa faith and a lot of all of that. And I like the liberties that they took when they wrote this, and the fact that we're kind of seeing a different side of the Asa, and the Asa are the gods, you know, Odin, for Freya, Frey, they're Asa. There are multiple kinds of gods in our folklore, and one kind is Asa and one kind is Vanir or Vala. And so in this, we kind of see the giants side of this. And they are forest giants. So they have like antlers. I think they're ash giants, you know, like the tree ash. And I just really like that we get that perspective. And this, I read the first book just a few days ago. I read the first book last weekend. So, you know, my thoughts on that one. And this is just the rest of the story. And I really, really love the queer representation in this that we have. I really love queer representation that we get in this, and also the trans representation that we get is something that I really enjoy. And I must say that if you're a big fan of like Odin and Thor, you would probably not like how they are portrayed. And some also like people who only know Loki for because of Marvel, you would probably not like how he is portrayed, but the way that Loki is portrayed in this is more true to the source material or to the cultures of the old Nordic. So I do really like how they took liberties, but they still kept
it still stayed true to a lot of like things in mythology and folklore and the religion and all of that. Like I really enjoyed that. And the art style in this I thought was brilliantly done. I really loved it. So that is a 5-star for this. And so there we have it. And we have, just to kind of like recap, 3 books got 5 stars. Nils Holgersson, Vej, Bok 1 and Vej Bok 2. So all the books that I read in Swedish got 5 stars. That's a first. That's wow. And then we have a book that I gave 4 stars, and it's Before You Say I Do. And then the last book is Elatsoe, and it got 3 stars. So I'm happy with how this turned out. I did not expect the majority to be 5 stars. All the 5 stars this time were, as I said, Nordic, Swedish, and they had to do with folklore. And you know, like these things that as someone who grew up in the Nordics, specifically Sweden, these are things that I grew up with, that I heard, and things that have been all around me and that we have studied in school and stuff like that. Well, then that concludes this little reading challenge in a cafe, and I must say that I'm very proud of myself because, as you saw when I spun the wheel, the challenge wheel, and got in a cafe, I was not. I was very worried about like filming in a cafe, and I feel like I really got out of my comfort zone, and at the end I didn't feel weird or awkward pulling out my camera to film the books. When I opened the books, what I had like around the books, like what did I drink, what did I eat, and all of that. Like I got comfortable with that, and I really enjoyed the experience as a whole. My main issue is that a lot of these books, like it would have taken me a lot less time if I didn't have to only read them in a cafe. Like reading, you know, like Before You Say I Do, I would probably have finished that in a day if I didn't have to read 1 hour a day until the weekend when I could read several hours. Well, then that's it for this reading challenge vlog. I hope you enjoyed, and please leave a like if you did and subscribe if you want more. And until next time, good reading. Bye.